Hello and welcome back to Learn Piano Live. I am Jamin and this is my moderator, Nano McCutcheon, right here.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
There we go. We're really glad that you're with us today. We're going to be talking tonight about playing along with the band and mostly that situation where you sit down with the band and they're already playing their song, they already know the song, and you're just sitting in because their regular piano player didn't show up, and so you're sitting in, you're trying to figure out what the songs are, and they don't have music for you because that happens all the time. Or actually even more common than that is they hand you the music and it's all written out wrong. So you've probably been in that situation before, and hopefully, since this is an advanced lesson, I'm assuming that you already know about keys. You can already play your different keys, and you can already kind of hear like the 1, the 4, the 5, or you know about the chord families and stuff for each of the keys. For example, in the key of C, we've got C's are common with F's, G's, A minors, D minors, E minors occasionally. So, or if they're in the key of F, you know, the F, B flat, C, D minor, G minor, A minor. So hopefully you can already hear those, you can already play those, and you can kind of pick them out when you hear them. Tonight we're mainly focusing on hearing secondary dominants and then some chord alterations, as well as we're going to talk about some common modulations, and that's where we're switching keys when you're in the key of C and then you want to move to the key of D. Both so that you can predict it, like if you hear something that sounds like the beginning of a chord a key modulation, then you can like predict it and know that, oh, we're going to be switching keys here and going into the other thing. As well as what's really common is it's the pianists are usually like the music theory guys in the band. Traditionally, a lot of times they'll want to switch keys. They'll want to go from the key of E to the key of A, but they just don't know how to get there. And so they'll look to you to give them like, how could we go smoothly from E to A, or they're just going to jump from E to A, and you can like interject and go, hey, we could try like a D to an E before the A and make it a little smoother. Anyway, we're going to get there. Let's start off first with secondary dominants. Make sure that you've downloaded the PDF, which I believe is right there. Am I right, Nano? I got to get this right.
That is correct.
All right, cool. Your PDF
good.
is right there. Your MP3 is right there. Click on those, and don't click on the MP3 yet, actually, because we're not going to use that until the end. But if you want to join the chat, I believe that's right down there. Yeah? Yep. All right, cool. So check those out. Download the PDF, and it should look something like this. Playing in a band. So we got the chord numbers there. We're going to briefly go through that in case you're not familiar with some of those chords and hearing them. Of course, the 1 chord is the one in the key that feels like home. It's and if you're singing along with the key, for example, if we're in the key of C, and then if you can sing that C, and if the chord feels like home, then we're in the key of C. Hopefully that all makes sense. If not, go back, check out the archives with the beginning and intermediate lesson, because that's kind of the stuff that we covered during those 2 lessons. So that's the 1 chord. It's going to feel like home. The 2 chord, you're going to be able to probably be able to sing the 1. More comfortable is going to be that you're going to be singing the 2, and it's the one that feels kind of, it feels stable, semi-stable, but it's definitely away from home. So in the key of C, that's going to sound like, and then that's our 1 chord, and then 2 chord right there. And also the 2 chord is commonly used as a substitute for the 4 chord. So wherever you have a 4 chord, you can kind of sneak in a 2 chord, and then vice versa. It's kind of sloppy, actually, to go, if there is a 2 chord, to switch it to a 4 chord, because the 4 chords are, as you know, so common that it's going from like a kind of a unique sound, that 2 chord, to a 4 chord, which is a really common sound. So it's better to go from, if you see a 4 chord, substitute in a 2 chord, that's going to be cool. Check with your bass player first. He's going to be really ticked off if you just go switching the 4 chord to a 2 chord. But if you are the bass and you're playing octaves down here and stuff, then on any of their 4 chords, you can sneak in a 2. Everyone will kind of look at you kind of weird and then go, oh, that wasn't bad. So the 2 chord feels away from home and wants to usually move to either the 5 or the 1. So moving on, the 3 chord. The 3 chord, you'll be able to sing the 7 of the key if you're singing along. So we hear the 1 chord, the 4 chord. And once we go to that 3 chord, then you'll be pushed down to the 7. If you're not pushed down to the 7, there's a really good chance that you're dealing with the slash chord, which is like a 1 over 3. Is way more common than the 3 chords, at least in pop music, that's true. So if you hear like, That's a 1 chord to a 1 over 3, and then to a 4 chord. So you could hang on to that 1 if you're trying to sing along. You could hang on to that note if it's the 1 over 3. If it's actually a 3 chord, you're going to be pushed down to that 7, and then the 4 chord. So just watch out for that. A lot of times where a song gets transcribed as a 3 chord, it's actually a 1 over 3. The 4 chord, hopefully you're really familiar with that one. We're not even going to go over it. The 5 chord as well, hopefully you're really familiar with that one. The 6 chord, super, super common. It's the one that's going to sound minor and stable in the key. So this is the one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the sound of the 6 chord. 6 chord. And then the 7, as you may know, almost never gets used. The 7, the number 7 in the bass gets used pretty frequently, but not as the actual 7 chord. It's usually going to be a 5 over 7. In the same way that you got to watch out for the 1 over 3 when we're talking about, listening for that bass. If you hear the bass line go from a C up to an E, or from the 1 to the 3, watch out, it might be a 1 over 3, or it might be a 3 chord, actually. When you hear a 7 in the bass, almost every single time, it's going to be a 5 over 7. So just really, if you think you're hearing a 7, be really, really skeptical. It probably isn't. It's probably a 5 over a 7. So now we need to talk about some secondary dominants. Before we do that, real quick, I want to show you over here on the right side, I've given you all of the chords and all of the keys so that you can practice hearing all of the, if you're not really familiar with the sound of maybe the 3 chord or the 2 chord, that you can practice those in all your other keys here in the key of C, D flat, D, all of them. All right, cool. Let's talk secondary dominants and move away here from the PDF a little bit. So secondary dominants are the chords in the scale where usually they were going to be minor, but they have switched them to be a major chord in the song. So for example, in the key of C, we've got the 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, the uncommon 7 chord, and then we're back to the 1 chord. Now, occasionally in the key of C, there'll be a D major chord. So obviously that's outside of the key. That's called a secondary dominant, where normally that chord is minor, but we switch it to major. Now, in case you're not familiar with it yet, let me show you on the PDF here. The 1 chord is just, in every single one of these keys, is just a major chord. So the 1 chord in the key of C is C. The 1 chord in the key of D flat is D flat major. The 1 chord in the key of D major is D major. The 2 chords are always going to be minor. The 3 chords are always going to be minor. The 4 chords are always going to be major. The 5 chords are always going to be major. The 6 chords are always going to be minor, and the 7 chord is going to be half diminished or diminished, which is why the 7 chord almost never gets used. It's just a really, really weird sound. So the 2, the 3, and the 6 are the 3 chords that are going to be the minor ones. 1, 4, and 5, major. 2, 3, and 6 are always going to be minor. So the secondary dominants come in on the 2, the 3, and the 6. So in the key of C, that's going to be, your secondary dominant is going to be on the 2, could be a major, or the 3 chord could be a major, or the 6 could be a major. So now when you're hearing these chords that sound like they're outside of the key, but you're sure it's not a modulation because we're not actually switching where home feels. For example, if we go now that's a bunch of secondary dominants in there. As you can see, there were a bunch of black notes I was playing. The first chord that I played that was not inside the key, this one right here, is actually a 6 chord, but as you can see, it's a major. It's not diatonic to the key. That would be the regular 6 chord. I'm playing this one right here, and so that one's outside the key. Whenever we have that one, pretty much all the time, it's going to be moving to the 2 chord. If it's the 6, it's going to be moving to the 2. So 1, secondary dominant, 6, to the 2. So we got the 1 chord, secondary dominant 2. Now, I'm sorry, secondary dominant 6 right there. Then we're moving to the 2 chord. In this case, 2 is also one of the ones that we could make as a secondary dominant. So I'm going to switch this chord, this 2 chord, into a major right there. So that now I've got 2 secondary dominants in a row. I've got the 1 chord, a secondary dominant 6, secondary dominant 2, and then a 5. So 1, major 6, major 2, 5, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. So that's the secondary dominant for the 2, the 3, and watch out for the 6. And the 6 is always going to want to move to the 2. The secondary dominant 2 is pretty much always going to want to move to the 5. And then the secondary dominant 3 is pretty much always going to want to move to the 6. One more time. The 3 is going to want to move to the 6. The 6 is going to want to move to the 2. And the 2 is going to want to move to the 5. And you might notice too that the chord that it moves to is always a half step above the 3 of the chord. One more time, the chord that it wants to move to is always a half step above the 3 of the chord. So, for example, let's take the 3 chord. We got the 3 chord right here, and then this is the middle note, this is the 3 of the chord. The chord that this one wants to go to is the chord that's a half step above that one. So that one wants to move to that one right there, which is the 6. The 6th chord, if it's a secondary dominant, is going to want to move to the chord that's a half step above this one. So this chord is always going to want to move to this one right here. Then this chord is always going to want to move to half step above this one, is this one. So the 3 wants to move to the 6, wants to move to the 2, wants to move to the 5. There you go. Let's talk about a couple other chord alterations that we can do. First one is going to be the 4 chord. A lot of times, to add some suspense to the 4 chord, we're going to actually make it a minor chord. So in the same way that sometimes we have like a 2 chord and sometimes it's major, sometimes when we have the 4 chord, we're going to add that minor on there before we go to the, wherever we're going to go, usually to the 1 at that point. So the 4 chord, instead of going straight to the 1, we would add 4, and then minor 4, and then finally go to the 1. So that one is pretty common, the minor 4, and it's got a very unique sound, and it usually comes after the 4. So if you hear a 4 chord, yeah, cool, and then you hear, they switched to something and it's almost the same and the bass sounds like it's doing the same thing, but I don't quite know what they did. What chord did they go to? Is it a secondary dominant? They usually just made it a minor 4 to the 1. So practice that up again with all 12 of the keys that are on your PDF. Go to all the 4 chords, make a minor, go to the 1. Go to the 4, minor 4, 1. 4, minor 4, 1. Sing everything you play everything you sing, so that when you hear that, you'll go, oh yeah, I've played that a million times. They went to a minor 4, and that's no problem. The other one that I want to show you is a walk down here real quick. We talked about slash chords a second ago. When we've got the 1 chord, and we want to get to the 6 chord. So the bass is going from the 1 to the 6. Obviously, we've got like a really easy path in the key to get from the 1 to the 6. It's through the 7. So we got 1, 7, 6. But as you know, because I've just told you like 5 times, we almost never use the 7 chord. That would sound super weird to go to. Actually, it doesn't sound that weird. But you're not going to hear that in any pop song. So instead of using the 7 chord, as I told you before, we're going to use the 5 chord because it's got the 7 in it right there. The 5 chord over 7. So we've got 1, 5 over 7, 6. Again, 1, 5 over 7, 6 for that walk down. So a lot of times in that bass, that slash chord thing that we talked about, the 1 over 3 and the 5 over 7 will be used to get the bass line from one note to another. For example, the 1 over 3, somewhere that gets used is if we've got 1, 2, 3 in the bass, but a 1 on top, 4, or 4, 1 over 3, 2, 1. We could keep going, 5 over 7, 6, 5, 4, 1 over 3, 2, 1. So that bass line is going to want to just walk, hopefully, and only moving by one note each time. This is kind of the most comfortable way for that to go. So if you're hearing that 7, check out the 5 chord instead of using the 7 chord, and also know that if you're coming from a 6 to that 1, probably the next chord is going to be a 1 chord. If we're going the other direction, 1, 5 over 7, probably the next chord is going to be a 6 chord. So there's actually a song that uses a lot of these secondary dominants and these alterations and stuff that I want to show you. And then hopefully we'll get to modulations right after that. Bruno Mars's When I Was Your Man, one of my students brought this song to me a couple weeks ago, and it just had like all the stuff that we were talking about tonight. So as I was preparing for tonight's lesson, I went, I know the perfect song for this. It actually starts out on a secondary dominant. The whole thing's in the key of C, but the very first chord is a D major. And as you can see, we've got that F sharp in there. That's kind of weird. So we've got the F sharp, and then it actually goes to a D minor, or you could, if you wanted to, go to the G, just like we talked about before. The secondary dominants usually want to go to the note, the chord that is a half step above the 3 of the chord. So there you go. There's the 3 of the chord. It's going to want to go to this one. So you could either start off When I Was Your Man by going major 2, minor 2, 1, major 2, minor 2, 1, or you could go major 2, 5, 1, major 2, 5, 1. Obviously the 5 sounds a little bit weird because you've heard it the other way a million times probably, but if you haven't heard it the other way a million times, probably it sounds relatively normal. And so either one of them could work. 2, 5, 1, or 2, minor 2, 1. Here we go. Here's the beginning of When I Was Your Man. Oops. Let's try that again. There we go. Minor 2, 1.
This is such a great song.
Glad you like it now. That's not part of the track. That's nano button in. Here we go. 6. And actually, let me show you that right at the beginning of that. He went to that 5 over 7 that we talked about to the 6. So he went 1, 5 over 7, 6. So major 2, minor 2, 1, major 2, minor 2, 1, 5 over 7, 6. We'll keep going.
Little bit bigger now.
2, 5,
song on the radio, but it don't sound
1,
the same.
5 over 7,
When our
6,
friends talk about you,
1,
all it does is just tear me
2,
down.
5,
My heart breaks a little
5,
when I hear your
1,
name. It all
5 over
just
7,
sounds like
6, 3, flat 7. So in this case, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a 7. The flat 7 would be this one right here. And usually this is going to come like right at the end of a phrase where we're wanting to get to the 1. We want to take a little bit longer, kind of like with the 4 and the minor 4 and then the 1. This is kind of like where you expected to hear the 5 chord. We're going to play the flat 7. It's a major chord, B flat major. And then we're going to go to the 4 and then the 1. Or we could go flat 7, 5, 1. Either one of those is going to get us back to the 1. It's just kind of a slow way to get there, where you're expecting to go bam, 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 and land on 1. Instead, we got these other alterations. We could go B flat, flat 7, 4, minor 4, and then 1 if we really wanted to extend it. But I think he just goes flat 7, 4, 1. We'll see.
Time to realize that
5,
I should have bought you flowers.
4 chords, 5,
Held your hand.
1,
Should have gave you all my
4,
hours. When I
5,
had the
1,
chance. Take you to every party,
4,
'cause all you wanted
5,
to do was dance. Now my baby's
That's our major
dancing.
2. Our major 2. And then he's going to go to the 4, and then the 5, and then the 1.
But she's dancing with another man.
I take it back. He's not going to do that at all. He's going to go from the major 2 to the 4, and then as promised, when we want to extend this thing, he's going to go to the minor 4. So the end of that phrase was 6, and then 2, 4, minor 4, 1. 1. So it's that 4, and we go, yeah, I'm on a 4, and then they switch it. It's just slightly altered, and the bass is staying the same. It's that minor 4 to the 1. Again, back a little way.
Had the chance, take it to every party,
4,
'cause all you
5,
wanted to do was dance.
6, major
Now
2,
my baby's
4,
dancing,
minor
she's
4,
dancing with another man.
1. So then a really good exercise for all these different modulations and all these different chord alterations and stuff is to take that PDF and then go through all of the different keys and then do this, transcribe this song, and then change it into all those different keys. Now, real quick, modulations here. The most common way to get a really good modulation from one key to another key is to find a common chord between the two keys. Let me show you on your PDF. So for example, if you want to go from the key of C to the key of D, we want to use any of the chords that are going to be the same in those two. So in the key of C, we have a C major. Do we have a C major in the key of D? We do not. What about a D minor? No. An E minor? Yes, we do. So that E minor right there, that's going to be the key to getting us from the key of C to the key of D. So an example of that would be, we've got the C, we've got, well, let's say the song is 1, 4, 5. So it's going to be 1, 4, 5. So maybe it's La Bamba or something. So here we're wanting to switch La Bamba from the key of C to the key of D. This E minor right here is going to be the one that's going to get us there because it's in both the key of C and the key of D. So we're going to use C, we're going to go to E minor. At that point, we're going to switch probably to like a 4, and then a 5, and then a 1. So we can do that. We're going to go 1, 3, and then 4 in the new key, which is going to be G, 5 in the new key, and then 1. So it would be, and then end the song, 3, 4, 5, and then we're into a new key. Now, a quicker way to do this is you'll notice that another chord that's in both keys is that G. A G is 5 in the key of C, and it's 4 in the key of D. So the best way to go from C to D, arguably, would be to go from your 1 chord to your 4 chord to your 5 chord. This 5 chord in the key, oops, sorry, we'll get to that in a second. This is our 5 in the key of C is going to also be the 4 in the key of D. So we've got the 4 chord in the upcoming key and the 5 chord in the key we were just in. We're on the 5, now we're going to think of it as the 4, and then go to the 5 with the new key, and then 1. So we've got, and then we're into our new key. So kind of the key about getting from one key to another key, the key to getting from one key to another is to find that chord that's going to be the common one between the two. If there is none, a quick and dirty way to get it done is just to go 4/5 to the 5. Just a 4/5 to the 5. So if we want to go from like the key of C to the key of D flat, you're not going to find any chords that those two have in common. Not the C, not the D minor, not the E minor, not the F, not the G, not the A minor, and not the B diminished. So what you can do is just go to your new key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Throw your 5 in the bass and put a 4 on top of it, and then to a 5, and then you're into your new key. No matter what key you're coming from, whether you're coming from the key of C or D or F or whatever, just go in 4/5 to a 5, and then a 1 is going to sound something like, so I'm in my old key, now, and now I'm into my new key. So 4/5 is going to get you there as well. All right, so let me show you that other thing that popped up a second ago. For a cool way to get from a 1 chord to a 4, instead of going 1 just straight to the 4, if you've got a little bit of time, we're going to use the 1 chord. And before we start our transition, we're going to use a secondary dominant of the 1 chord, actually, which usually isn't a dominant chord. Usually it's got this 7 on it here. We're going to make that a dominant chord by lowering that 7. And before we even hit that, we're going to go to the 5 chord and make that one minor. So usually the 5 chord is major, like we talked about before, but now we're going to make it minor. So here's our 5 chord. We're going to make it minor, or a minor 7 chord, and then go to the 1 with that lowered 7, and then switch to the 4. So that's going to sound, instead of 1, to the 4, it's going to sound like this: 1, and then minor 5, 1, 4. And this works every single time that you want to get to the 4 chord. Obviously, it's more appropriate sometimes than others. And if you're playing in a band, you want to make sure that you're talking with your bass player too, because he's going to get really annoyed if you just start switching up the chords on him. But if you're the only guy taking care of the bass, we got 1, minor 5, 1, 4. So another one that's real common to get to 4, obviously, is 1, 2, 1/3, 4, or 1, 1/3, 4, like we talked about before. But something that's going to be a little more creative and have a little bit more grit to it is going to be that minor 5 to the 1 to the 4. So there you go. If you have any questions about the lesson, now is the time to go in the box that's down below the lesson and type it in. Put your first name in, and then type your question and click submit, and Nano will sort through all those and give me your questions. In the meantime, I want to talk to you about your MP3 and how to use that. So if you've downloaded that, it's just got a bunch of chords. It's all in the key of C, and that was to help out with the beginners and the intermediates. And then it's going to help you out too, actually, because some of the chords in here are a little bit hard to hear. It's going to start off with mostly 1s, 4s, and 5s. So hopefully at the beginning you're breezing through it, and it's yeah, that's a 1 chord and the 4 chord and the 5 chord. You're going to try to transcribe each one of the chords. It's 1 chord per measure. So every single measure, I'm switching chords, and then you've got the answers to all of the chords at the bottom of your PDF. So down here at the very bottom, I kind of stole a page from the Highlights for Kids playbook here and gave you all the answers, but they're upside down. So there's no way you could possibly know them unless you turned your page upside down. And so after you transcribe that, go there to double check those chords. But you're probably, hopefully, transcribing stuff all on your own anyway, because that is going to be the most valuable exercise you could do to increase your piano skills, is transcribing really great pianists and trying to follow along with what they're doing. So now it's time for some questions. What do you got?
Believe it or not, we do not have any questions tonight.
Beautiful. You
did a great job.
All right. Marvelous. Well, don't forget that your homework this month is to transcribe one song using one song that's hopefully at your level, and then record that video and then submit it through the video submission tab on the website. There's a place for you to send in the links for your videos and stuff, so you'll want to upload it to YouTube, then submit it to us. And then if you want to, I'll go through it and give you some advice, some stuff that you could change, how to change it. If you don't want advice, if you just want to show off on the stuff that you've transcribed and played, cool. Just let me know that, and I won't touch it. I'll just admire your awesome skills. Next week we're doing common chord progressions, so this will both help with your songwriting as well as prediction of like what chords are coming up. Like tonight we talked about, if you've got a secondary dominant that's a 2 and it's going to want to move to a 5, or a secondary dominant that's a 6 is going to want to move to a 2. Stuff like that that will help you learn how to predict what chords are coming up in the songs that you're playing and stuff. And then also, if you would check out, I believe right below the, let's see here, we got the PDF, we got the MP3, and then we got the chat. Right below that, there's a survey too. If you didn't get a chance to get your questions in tonight, or you just have other comments about ways we could improve this thing, this is all about you. So if you got any questions or suggestions about this stuff, we just want to give you whatever skills we can, add value to your playing in whatever way we can. So let us know through the survey, or email us, or call us, or yell real loud, whatever you got to do to get the information to us, because we want to give you whatever we got. So I will see you next week. Like I said, we're talking about common chord progressions. Join us for the advanced lesson, or all 3 of them, or whatever you want. I'll see you later.